Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is security cameras. I know I have mentioned this one before, but it is definitely worth repeating. A few years back, we had an issue with the neighbors at one of our projects coming over and throwing parties in the backyard. We had added a fire pit and a fenced yard, and every few days we'd find beer cans and burnt logs in the fire pit. I vented to one of my Facebook groups, and someone suggested we put up trail cams. Let me tell you, this was the best $150 we have ever spent on security. Trail cams are battery-operated camouflage cameras that transmit photos via cellular service. You do not need internet or electricity to run these bad boys. They are motion-activated cameras used by hunters to track wildlife on trails. We bought one at a sporting goods store, downloaded the app on my phone, and attached it to a tree at the entrance to the backyard. Literally, 45 minutes later, a picture was sent to my phone of a blonde chick and her martini glass letting her drunk ass into our project's backyard. We called the police, and they showed up in the next few photos. The officers did not catch her, but I did have a perfect picture of her face. So I printed off about 20 of them with "Smile for the camera next time" and posted them all down the driveway and sidewalk. All of them were gone in a few hours, except the ones I taped inside the windows. Laughs on you, martini lady. Needless to say, the parties stopped. So if you are having security issues at one of your projects, I strongly suggest investing in a trail cam or two. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my new friend and fellow redhead, Tanya Oliver. Tanya is an executive coach teaching high-end achievers how to become mentally, physically, and emotionally healthy and strong AF, what we say as fuck, so they can look, feel, and show up in their business and life as their best self. Tanya is a total badass, and it is my honor to have her here. Welcome to the show, Tanya Oliver.
Thank you, Jen, so much for having me on.
Yay! It's like looking in a mirror. It's like looking in a mirror at you.
Right? That's how we became besties.
So I am so excited for this one because I have to let you know, as much as I joke and do, have this crazy, wild personality, you have made a huge difference in my life and my husband's life, by the way, because shortly after we met you, Vance hired you to be his coach, and you have been working miracles. So again, it's a huge honor. I had to get that out of the way because you are such a badass. But tell us about you. You live in my home county of Broward County, Florida, correct?
Well, West Palm.
Boca is in West Palm. See, I always called Boca part of Broward County, but anyway, you are correct. Sorry, it's West Palm. But we're South Florida girls. So how did you end up in South Florida?
I am actually a native. I was born and raised in Florida.
Where were you born?
In Boynton Beach.
Really? I was born in Miami.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes, native as well. There were not many natives. You are a rarity in Florida.
And I stayed put. I love, love, love Florida.
Well, you can keep it. We already had this conversation.
We did.
So tell me about your background. How did you evolve to the badass Tanya Oliver of today?
Oh my gosh, I have so many stories that I like to call my past life story because, I think it's so important to be able to be in a space of this recreation and not to be tied down to old segments of stories that we have of ourselves. But in a quick synopsis, as far as like work ethic, I do give that a lot to my parents. My dad was an entrepreneur, and they really encouraged following your dreams, and that it was okay to quit if like I played sports. I played ice hockey for 9 years, but before I got to ice hockey, I had played multiple sports and I quit them. And I hated them and I sucked at them.
Well, ice hockey is so, important in South Florida, ice hockey.
I know.
Like, where did you find ice hockey down there?
There was a rink in Pompano and it's still there. It's called it was Gold Coast when I started. And I was like 13 years old. And I fell in love with it. And I think that was a really, I will say I'm very grateful that my parents allowed me to, have to try and fail and try other ventures, because I do see how it's, impacted the decisions I make in life and not being afraid to try new things. But still, when you find something you love, to stay committed. And I think going back to sports is once I found my sport, the work ethic, the drive, handling losses, handling wins, developed a strong skill set. I do believe sports, people have the chance and the ability and the gift of being able to play sports as kids. It teaches you a lot in entrepreneurship. But I think also too, it's important if entrepreneurs have never played sports to get into them, whether it being, strength training or yoga or, something, because it does help a lot with handling stress, wins, losses of day-to-day life. And then, got into other different things. That's just one segment of it. But I think that's the biggest thing of a foundational blueprint for my work ethic, at least.
And did you have a career before you started coaching?
Yeah. So as I was in school, I got into addictions. My dad, ice hockey is an expensive sport. I played travel. So I spent a lot of my summers in Canada. We were very blessed growing up. I went to private schools. So my dad was one of those entrepreneurs that ran away from home at 16, built out a very successful construction business. But because of the lack of his self-care, he had to have spinal surgery. With spinal surgery, he ended up getting addicted to drugs because of the coping of handling the pain. So eventually we lost everything once I was in college. And then I had my own addictions that I got into. So there's like I said, there's so many stories to what brought me to this space. And my first career was personal training and fitness, because I knew that I had to, even though I was struggling with, one of my addictions was food, and I had competed. So after ice hockey, I transitioned to the bikini competition world and space, bodybuilder space, and I had developed severe eating disorders. So I became a binge eater, and that's how I coped at the time with life and with my pain, is I would eat to numb myself. One of the ways that I would numb myself. And even though I was in that space, I still pursued a career in fitness and in personal training, because I knew that whatever I chose to do, it had to be a space to keep me in a forward movement mindset. So even though I was going through something heavy, I needed something light to keep my mind, to keep me pulling forward. And I think, like I said, going back to the foundation of sports, is you still need to have that new target always in front of you, no matter what you're going through in your life, no matter how much pain you're going through or how bad things are, you need to have something to keep you in a new direction.
And that's something about you because I am a little on the fluffy side, shall we say. And when I first met you, I was like, oh, she is just so untouchable. I cannot even, how could I possibly connect with this woman? And I read that you were 60 pounds overweight and how you transitioned into that. And I was like, holy shit, she's a real freaking person. And then we started talking more and I just immediately connected with you. And that's why I actually trust you to coach my husband, because I was like, ooh, I pick her. So
I mean, you don't have a choice. This is who you're working with.
Exactly. Go ahead, pay up and get fixed. So, I found you so intimidating, but once I got past that, I was like, oh my gosh, I just love her. We met in Cancun at the TAB retreat, which is the absolute best, and it's for real estate investors. And you were a speaker, but you also did a morning meditation one morning, and it was on the beach, and it was amazing. And then I heard you speak, and you talked about extrinsic and intrinsic goals. And I kind of want to dive into a little bit of that because it clicked for me. I'm a huge goal setter and I feel like I was doing it wrong before. And when you started talking about these intrinsic goals, if I say that properly, and yes, and I'm like, that's what I'm missing in my life. So can we touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love speaking about this because I was the queen of failing at goals. Like, I love setting goals. I'm such a person on strategy and structure. And, what I find is that people that have that seem like the messiest in life are actually the most disciplined and committed. They're just committed and disciplined to the wrong things. And so when I was at my lowest point with my addictions, I was always setting goals based on an extrinsic goal of an outcome. So an extrinsic goal is an outcome goal that we're taught to set based on time frame and, that big vision result, and how to break it down into smaller ones, but everything is outside of ourselves. And I got discouraged a lot. I failed a lot. And then I was just kind of like, fuck it. Then what's the point of setting goals if they're making me miserable and I'm never accomplishing them and I'm constantly beating myself up? So then I was like, well, if this isn't working, what if I started doing things a little differently? What if I started to, and this actually, I read Danielle Laporte's book, The Fire Starter, and she talked a lot about feeling words. And I was like, I wonder if I can apply this to first, my body, because that was like the first thing I really struggled with. That was my first priority of getting myself right with my body. And I said, okay, well, what if I just started to feel good today? And I did exercise that I enjoyed. And so I feel good and I have confidence and I feel inspired and I feel focused AF and I feel strong. And I was like, I can do that. I can feel these things today. I can do something so that I can feel this way today, like with what I have. And that started to build up confidence again. That started to then all the external things that I would always set in the past of these extrinsic goals, of the outcome goals, which are just the result of your intrinsic goals. It allows you to build up the momentum and the confidence of kind of creating something called progress goals. So it's not like too far ahead, but you know that you're making results. So it kind of like builds up that momentum of like, wow, you know what, maybe I actually can build that business, or I can hit those numbers, or I can reach, the body that I want to reach. But it's not about that. It's about, we set goals based on how we think they're going to make us feel, or the level of fulfillment we're going to experience in our life. So once, I started teaching that and actually doing it myself, everything changed in a positive way. And I did actually eventually hit those big markers, and I still continue to hit big markers, but I always base it off of, and I have I know you guys can't see, but I have sticky notes in front of me that remind me every day of confidence, feeling affluent, feeling emotional intelligence, feeling connected, feeling clear and focused as fuck. feeling beautiful and happy. But these are just feeling words. And then my actions and the micro habits that I develop on a day-to-day basis will lead me to the extrinsic, which are the result of goals.
And listening to you talk about this is what clicked in my head. And just a small example of, and there are many examples in my brain, like going off at once, but one for me was I had lost a lot of weight at one point and hit my goal weight. And this was back in my single days. And I thought for sure, oh, when I lose the weight, that's going to, I'll find the man of my dreams. And so it was one of those, something that you said where I was like, ugh, I so get that. And then in my professional life, when I say, oh, when I have 5 house flips under my belt and I've achieved this, and so then this is what my life is going to be like. And it wasn't. And I had to figure out more on that intrinsic side and how to make myself, how I really want to feel. So I really, really like that. And what happened for me was I found coaching, and that's made a huge difference because yes, I got to a point, but I was not being fulfilled. And so when I stumbled upon coaching, I coached for the Tarek El Moussa homeschooled program, and it has made all the difference. It's made me a better entrepreneur as well by teaching other people, because the best form of learning is through teaching. So everything that you were saying was clicking in my head. And also like SMART goals, like I coach on SMART goals. We got to do this. And then I was like, shit, I got to take a step back and relook at how I'm coaching people now, because that's how I was coached. So again, everything you were saying, I was like, oh my gosh, give me more. So you went further. We can get into this in a second, but what do you have to say on all that? Because you're like nodding your head, and I don't want to cut you off, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I wrote down, because I'm always writing down things when they come to me, is that you were talking about this, and it's like, we're never going to get it done. There's always going to be more. And I think once you can understand that and you're like, wait a second, I need to pause. Like you said, like I need to pause. I like to call it like a timeout, like a child. Like I need to take a timeout for myself, and I need to really reassess, rethink, and reevaluate. Like, am I enjoying this process? Because another thing is there's multiple paths to an end destination. I call that your North Star. So a segment of the goal setting, which is the first session that I do with people, is we set those intrinsic goals. We gain clarity. Where are you going? And that's called the North Star. I call that the North Star, but because I work with high-end achievers, everybody loves the word power words. So I give them the opportunity to choose their words, whether it being power words, intrinsic goals, or North Star. I keep mine as North Star because it always guides me. And then from there, when you have that clarity, you then can build that road backwards. So then you create your path, and know that it's so important to enjoy the process of your path.
I love it. I love it. And that's why you're so successful at what you do. I am seeing it even through my husband. You've had just a few weeks working with him. It's been amazing. So thank you, sister. Another thing you talked about, which really, I love this. And a lot of people, when they are entrepreneurs and they get into the business, they're looking at, the steps that they have to do to make their business successful, the tools that they use. But you had something even a step past that, and it's your 5 steps to implement into your life. And I'm going to let you explain them, because there are things in here where I was like, oh, like your step number 2, it was so good. And it is really, really important. That was the most important one for me. Even for teaching students, I have to make sure that I keep doing this one. So start with step number 1. What are 5 steps to implement into your life?
Yeah, so there's 5 steps to implement into your life. And this is what I spoke about at TABME, speaking about this as well. But it's getting clear on where you're going, which we talked about is goal setting. Like really reevaluating how you're setting goals and setting that North Star so that you can realize, like, wait a second, I'm not on the right path. So you can back it up a little bit, get on your right path. Then step 2 is establishing your non-negotiables. Step 3 is knowing your triggers and developing a solid toolbox for them. So you have your tools when, life knocks you on your ass. So important to have that. Step 4 is to create mental strength by getting on your own team. Most people become their greatest liability versus an asset. So if you want to do amazing things in the world, at first, everything is an external expression of you. Everything is a extension of you. So if things are not in alignment, you need to really be able to get on your own team first and become a asset to yourself versus a liability. And then step 5 is to accept, forgive, and to develop a forward movement mindset.
So step number 1, get clear on where you're going. Can I share with you my life purpose statement?
Yes, please.
I took a course with Jack Canfield. Love you, Jack. Be on my show, Jack Canfield. And I wrote this on 11/11 of 2019. And my life purpose statement is to use my humor and experience to inspire and educate others while coaching with integrity. And that last part, the coaching with integrity, for me was what I hated in a lot of these gurus and hearing stuff like that. So I keep this, like your little Post-it notes. I have this right here on my desk and I look at it every day. I use it as a bookmark sometimes just to remind me to keep reading it. So how do you help people get clear on where they're going?
Yeah, I mean, it's a process. Well, the first thing we do is I have to identify, do you even really want to change? Mm-hmm. That's like the first step. A lot of people talk about they want to change, but they really don't, because then it's like, when you're really doing the work of change and transformation, you have to be really ready to commit to your success. And you have to be willing to know that you're gonna be able to let go of things that no longer serve you. And a lot of people, it really freaks them out to think about success because they've been living so long in a space of inconsistency and chaos.
Yep.
And surviving. So the thought to be successful freaks them out. That's why the first thing I do is just have a call or a consultation, and then I'm able to identify right from the moment if that's clear. But the first thing is really like when somebody so are you asking before starting the work or actually when somebody starts the work?
Like when someone's starting to implement these 5 things into their life, how do you help someone get clear on where they're going?
Oh, the first thing is setting those intrinsic goals, because it has to come from within them. So the first thing is identifying and leveraging on what's not working. When you're leveraging on what's not working, because everybody's like, oh, I don't want to talk about the bad. You have to talk about the bad because the bad is really good when you lean into it, because it gives you clarity on the opposite. Okay, I've experienced this, therefore I know that I don't want it. So what's the opposite of it? Okay, so if I have if I'm ADD and I'm all over the place, then I know I want to have clarity and focus. Perfect. It's like the complete opposite. So it's really that clarity on, what's not working so they can gain insight and the possibility of where they could go.
And do you find that when you start coaching people and maybe they tell you where they think they're clear on where they want to go, but then it's actually so different? Have you had that happen?
Not really, because of the way that we align things. That's why I say, like, there are certain things that the staple segments of when I coach is the first session for everybody is setting intrinsic goals. But because when they have that and it's in front of them, during the process, there's gonna be habit relapses. There's gonna be ups and downs, but the one thing is when I work with people directly is they have constant, I'm literally annoying. So their homework is typically, it's a daily check-in of your daily wins, like building yourself up. You know what did you do right today? What did you do right today? The second is your challenge. What were you challenged with today? What did you struggle with? As far as like this type of work or life, how would you reframe it? Like, what would you do to create that new neural pathway in your mind to reframe that so that, number one, you can let go of the guilt, the mental beat up, the shame, and create a new way and self-trust of knowing that you're capable of making good decisions, the next right decision, especially when you're faced with that challenge again. So eventually we're reframing the challenge into another daily win. And then they would end with their intention, which are their intrinsic goals. So if it's to be emotionally intelligent, before you become emotionally intelligent, you have to be emotionally available. So how can you maybe step in to pay attention to how you're feeling or how other people are feeling?
That's awesome. So step one, to recap, is to get clear on where you're going. My favorite was step two, establish your non-negotiables. And people, I feel like they skip over this. So explain, what is a non-negotiable?
Yeah, so non-negotiables are things that literally you feel are almost like a slingshot. They're like pulling you back to scale forward. It's the things that allow you to operate, that charge your battery mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, so that you can operate at higher levels. So the non-negotiables are typically going to be for everybody, because we are all human, is our sleep, what we're putting into our bodies, because it impacts our mental health. And there are not enough, things on the media that are emphasizing food as far as like more mental health, emotional stability versus just the body. And exercise's main placement is to quiet the chatter of the mind. So if you're struggling with anxiety or overwhelm or sadness, depression, whatever intense emotions, mental paralysis, you gotta move, because it helps you. There's chemicals in the body that are released, and it gives you the dopamine and the serotonin, and you're able to feel a little bit better, have more clarity if you're feeling, creativity blocks. So these things have their placement. They don't have to be intense, but they have to be in homes that are not moved, because they help you operate at higher levels.
And I know so many people who are entrepreneurs, they're brand new into it, and they just go, 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 go. And then, not too further into it, they're done. They're just fried. And it's because they have given up everything. They are working all day long. They are not taking care of their body. They're not taking care of their mind. And I mean, these are things that I've had people say, oh, well, you're weak if you, take a break and read a book. I don't have time for that. I'm starting this business. And where it's just the complete opposite is you have to have these non-negotiables and take care of you first, or nothing's going to happen down the road. So,
and that's what we were talking about earlier about, like, there's an end goal, or there's an end destination, and there's multiple paths to getting there. So that's why you can see a lot of people that, yes, they have reached a certain level of financial abundance, but would I call that success? No. Success for me is like that level of fulfillment, where three things in business are never compromised during that journey of accomplishing that financial bucket. And that's your health, your peace of mind, and your heart.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, there's multiple paths, and then eventually those people end up working with them, and it's like they got to go all the way backwards anyway, and take all the majority of their money and put it back into their health. So the money's still going backwards. It's just, what did you hit first, and did you enjoy the journey of getting there, or did you have all these other losses along the way?
That's such a great reminder. And seeing it up on the screen at the Tab Retreat, I was like, I got to keep putting that back in there. I got to remember to just keep taking care of myself. So Step number one, get clear on where you're going. Step number two is establish your non-negotiables. And step number three is know your triggers and develop a great toolbox. So what are some triggers that can really interrupt all of this?
Sure. So the one thing is, like, everybody has the same emotional chart, and we all have feelings. It's just that, are we numbing our feelings to get through pain, yet creating suffering? Or do we have healthy tools that are helping us get through the pain so that we can move on and, not suffer? So understanding your triggers, everybody has triggers. It could be, for me, my triggered emotions when I know I could possibly become a liability to myself is when I'm overwhelmed and overly exhausted. But not just one, it's those two combined. So that's when I know if I'm in a yellow light. So when I work with people or even on my social pages, I'm always like, hey guys, just doing a check-in. Are you at a green light, meaning you're thriving? Things are great. Are you at a yellow light? You feel like you're slowing down. You're still trying to run, but you feel like you're kind of running in quicksand. Or are you in a red light? That means it's like too late and you're totally burnt out. So triggered emotions are more like, what are those emotions that really trigger me to, use things like whether it being food, alcohol, drugs, numbing self to electronics, feeling like you need to go to the strip club, do a bump of coke. Like, what are those things, those tools that you're using as a coping mechanism to help you get through your pain? So what are the triggers, and when are you like dangerous? When could you be dangerous to yourself?
And then what are some tools to take over at that point?
Yeah, well, the first is you need to understand the tools that you're currently using. So what are the tools that you're using that are hurting you? So what I broke it down into was almost like a math equation. And I believe you saw this in the at Tab, but it's a simple formula that most of the time when I work with people is we work together on creating their own toolbox, because it's your toolbox. It's not mine. And once you're identifying your triggered emotions, identifying the tools that aren't serving you, which are more your behaviors. How are you behaving when you're feeling triggered? Are you lashing out on people? Are you XYZ? So maybe a tool instead of lashing out could be removing yourself and going outside and breathing, or doing some breathing exercises. But if that's too intense, you can drive in the car and scream in the car. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got to get out of you. It could be exercise. It could be taking a yoga class. It could be going salsa dancing. It could be, just going to the beach or going hiking, or it just really depends on what helps that person during that time. It could be literally just going to bed, mm-hmm. taking a bath, taking a shower, something to create a disruption. It could be a tapping session. There's something called EFT. It could be calling your therapist. It could be calling your coach, whatever it may be, reaching out to somebody, saying a prayer.
I love it. It's one of those things where, when I'm stressed out, or if something happens where I feel like I'm being too micromanaged, I get very about it, because
angry. I say the word angry.
I get so angry. Thank you. Where I was a school teacher for 16 years. Then I was in corporate America for 5 or 6 years. And I was so sick of being micromanaged. So when I'm running my own business, I'm my own boss, but yet I feel like I'm losing control of that, where someone's micromanaging me. It does make me angry. And I have learned breathing is what works for me. Like literally stopping, taking a breath. I breathe in for 4, I hold for 4, and then I breathe out for 8. And as stupid as that sounds, like the old me would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? But it literally just changes everything about me, and it calms me down. And so I agree 1,000% with that. And it's huge. So before we started, I was like, okay, let's jump in, let's hit record, and you're like, well, first let's do some breathing exercises. And I was like, oh damn, she's got me. So I love it, and I love that's how you start your sessions, and you get them in, just that nice calm space. So
yeah,
awesome.
It's a theta space. You got 5 energy spaces. It's like the middle space where you're right here, right now, because that's really the only space you're living.
So true. All right. Step number 4 out of the 5 steps is create mental strength by getting on your own team. Now, this is easy for me because I'm a huge fan of myself, because, I'm pretty awesome, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Actually, yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean by getting on your own team?
A lot of the things is we have something that we typically have so many thoughts in a day, and a lot of our programming is based on, maybe toxic personality traits that were learned from mom, dad, or upbringing environment, and we're not even aware of them. They're called shadow traits. And you could be a trained optimist, but if it's internally inside of you and you're speaking affirmations that are like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm such a fuck up, or I can't ever get anything right, or I'm disgusting, or I'm this and that, like, and you're just saying it, you're not even aware. By consciously taking the time to reframe that and to say not like, oh, I'm amazing, I'm this and that, because then you're just going to get angry at those things. You're going to get angry at trying to flip them over and say something positive because you don't feel that way. But if you can just say like, I'm in the process of learning how to learn this new skill set, like I'm in the process of like just being a little kinder to yourself, will help eventually, like just like we do physical exercise to strengthen our body, we need to have mental exercises to also strengthen our mind and our emotional state, and to really be kinder, have more compassion with ourselves. And I say like an exercise, I love giving homework with every conversation. So can I just give some homework real fast?
Absolutely.
Is to just make a list of everything that you're being mean to yourself about, that you are always saying about, like maybe you say you're slow or you don't learn fast enough, and then to just get it out, because it's important to use the negatives. We have to use the negatives because they give us clarity. So just to kind of like write it all down on paper and then write the complete opposite. And if the complete opposite annoys you, I get it because I've been there. You can just write, I'm in the process of. That takes the pressure off of saying something that you really don't believe in yet. But just like those affirmations, an affirmation, just a statement that's repeated over and over and over again until it becomes your belief system. Just like you've been saying those affirmations for years, all you'll have to do is just start a new process of the way that you're talking to yourself.
And that's such a great way to approach it, because when people first start using affirmations in their life, it is a little hard to believe, thinking, I can just say this, I am happy and healthy and living a fulfilling life. Yes. And by adding just those words, I'm in the process of living a happy and healthy and fulfilling life. That's so good. And it takes the pressure off. That is awesome. So that leads into, in my brain, into step 5, which is the accept, forgive, and forward movement mentality, because you have to become a fan of yourself, but then you also have to forgive others and yourself at times. So explain what step 5 is.
So I did a coaching session the other day, and I had like such an awareness on how to explain this, because I have to explain all these things to people in different ways, because my goal is to always break through to people. And English isn't always understandable. So you have to learn how to explain things differently. And I had a bigger awareness on this myself, but during the process of really, really changing, like truly changing from the inside out, when you come to the space of self-accept, like awareness, which I say there's 3 steps to change and transformation. It's awareness, being aware that what you're doing and how you're acting and how you're behaving is just not working anymore. It's not serving you with where you're trying to go. Then being curious about it versus judging it. Because when you're curious, you're open-minded. And then that goes to step 3, which is to seek out solutions. Because if you judge it, you never grow. When you judge and beat yourself up, you never grow. So when you're in this space of truly doing the work and changing to transform and to become the person you're trying to become, you're going to get angry. You're going to be mad. You're going to beat yourself up and be like, I can't believe I did that. How did I stay in that relationship? How did I do that and mess up in my business or whatever it may be? Or how did I like neglect my body for this long? And you get angry about it. And then you start to like bash yourself. So it's not about forgiving other people. It's about forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself because knowing you did the best you knew how based on the information you had at the time. And when you forgive, you open up and you improve the function of your heart. And getting back to the very beginning of the conversation of your North Star, or your power words, your intrinsic goals, is it's all in alignment to your heart, because your heart recognizes truth, because truth can only be recognized, it can't be learned. So the more that you open up and expand your heart, the more you're able to be in alignment to your truth, not anybody else's, but yours. So forgiveness is very powerful because it frees you from continuing to beat yourself up from stuff that you did in the past.
Right.
You have to forgive and move forward, but you can't move forward if you keep bringing your past into your present future. It's almost like you're going to be trying to like walk with chains on. But if you're really wanting to scale, you have to be able to, you know, forgive yourself for cleaning up your shit that you did in the past as you're in a space of moving forward.
That is so important because it will trickle down to not just your life, but into your business and everything that is going on. And I'm sure the listeners, it is very clear to them that you are so great at doing this and helping people become their best self. And we learned just a few little things here and about the 5 steps to implement into your life, intrinsic versus extrinsic goals, and how would someone get more from you? I know you do coaching, you do a mastermind. Tell us everything that you offer.
Yeah, so I have 3 main things that we're offering right now. They can follow me at Tanya C. Oliver, Tanya C. Oliver on Instagram. And then and my website is TanyaCOliver.com. So they can go there and get information on the mastermind. But we have a Get Shit Done productivity course coming up on the 30th. Not sure when this goes out, but that comes out on the 30th. And of course, one-on-one. So they can reach me on Instagram or on the website.
And like I had mentioned, you are working with my husband. You're working with 4 of my other friends as well, like close friends of mine. And you are making a huge difference. They are blessed to have you. I know that's an overused word, blessed, but I mean, it's just, you make such a difference in people's lives, including mine. So I appreciate you very much. You heard me at the beginning give a badassery bestowment. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the listeners?
Yes. So Badassery bestowment. My new one that I'm really, really leaning into is every decision you make in life, never let it compromise 3 things: your heart, your peace of mind, and your health.
So good. Definite badassery. They're spoken from a badass herself. So thank you, Tanya. And the second half of the podcast, we go deeper into why Tanya is a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B, which stands for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Well, Jen, you have it in your bookshelf. It was a recommended read. There's a recommended read I have everybody have, which explains the foundation of a lot of this work, and it's called The Hidden Messages in Water. And I cannot pronounce his name. I apologize, but the book is amazing.
And I literally bought it. It was waiting for me when we got home from Cancun. But it's for those non-believers out there, like AKA my husband, and it's based on science. So just tell a quick little bit about it, because I was so intrigued by this book.
Yeah, so this book literally talks about the foundation of how we operate. Like, it's kind of like life coaching in a book, but there's a lot of pictures in there. It really is based on science, which the term is called epigenetics, and the power of really transforming yourself and your life on a cellular level. So not just a superficial, but a cellular level. And I have a lot of clients, their kids end up reading this book. So this book is it's a simple read. It's very minimal, but a lot of it just talks about the power of how our words will impact us and our body and our relationships and our business on a deeper level. And it shows how it changes our body by how we speak to ourselves.
And that is only going to benefit everyone by reading that.
Everybody.
So, yes.
Everybody. Yeah.
All right. The first A in badass is advice. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That I've received?
That you've received.
The best piece of advice that I've received is to really live a life full of fulfillment. And if something takes away that, to really reassess it. You know, it's not about the money. It's about really We all have a life box, and within the life box, there's 9 categories. We've got relationship, business, family, friends, health, and we want to always take inventory on how full each box is, not just one box.
So good. All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives Tanya to be successful?
When I speak to people like yourself. No, but seriously, like when I hear people and I know that, because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, and I know it's not just me because I watch a lot of interviews of other people that are doing amazing things in the world. And I think you can relate with this is we put in so much energy and time and passion and love into what we do behind the scenes, hours and hours and hours. And sometimes we think, is this impacting anybody? Is anybody listening? Does anybody care? And when you hear people that say thank you and you can feel the authenticity, or when because we're all human, and you're like, wow, like that keeps me going. When I hear testimonials and I hear people that say, thank you so much. I was struggling with heavy anxiety, or I was depressed, or I was living my life miserable. And now I feel like I'm living and I'm not just alive, I'm awake. Thank you. Like that keeps me going. That always has, because, I'm a 17-year overnight success for like, oh, you came out of nowhere. I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. Had many cries in the bedroom thinking if this was the right path for me. So that's what keeps me going.
I thank you for everything that you are doing with my family. So I appreciate it. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. We have been talking about goals. I want to know a goal that you are currently working on.
Omnipresence, baby.
Oh, all right. Yes. Explain.
So, I thought I would be good with, just taking on one-on-ones and having a peaceful little life, and, not being exposed and not really wanting to have attention. And then I realized I'm doing a disservice to the world. And I prayed about it, I meditated about it, and just a lot of pulling and tugging. And I'm like, I need to be on stages. I need to be doing more interviews. I need to share this information with more people because the world needs it. And people are suffering and struggling, and they're in their own way. And I have tools and I have information, and it's time to share it. So I'm really getting out of my comfort zone. I'm getting out of my shell. And it's just massive impact and massive omnipresence.
I love it. I know several students that are listening to this, or people who are trying to get into real estate investing. And what they don't realize is that there is a future person that needs them to find them a safe home, to find them a job as a contractor or whatever. So you are doing a disservice by not being the best that you can be. So well said. All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
My non-negotiables, my morning and night routines, those are non-negotiables. It's like the sandwich of my day. So everything stems from the night before the morning. So having that night routine of my self-care is really, really huge. Those literally are the systems as far as like how I operate at higher levels, whether it being my meditation, cleaning up for a little bit, writing out my daily journal that we explained earlier on. And then my morning, getting my workout in, taking care of myself, doing my affirmations, and then, having my other business systems in place. But those are the core of it.
Awesome. And so important to do. I remember when I first quit corporate America, I'm like, I'm turning my alarm clock off. This is it. And people are like, yeah, Jen, you're going to be setting it for about an hour earlier when you realize. And I do wake up earlier than I ever have just to do my morning ritual and prepare the night before, etc. So very important. All right. The final S is success. What does success mean to you?
Success means fulfillment. And I know I've used that word a lot. I think fulfillment has a lot to do with like why we do what we do. It's like, yes, it's here to serve others, but you can't serve you can't really serve people when you're only giving people like what's left of you versus the best of you. So you always need to make sure that you are selfish. Give yourself permission to be selfish, to take care of your needs, your wants, and your desires, because when you're happy, you're only giving that to other people and to the work that you're doing and what you're contributing back to the world. So a lot of times with my clients and people I come across, I'm like, you have to be selfish, because it's not, happy people aren't the one, like they're selfish people. The miserable people are typically the ones that just give so much of themselves that they have nothing left to give, and they're angry about it.
Right. Well, you make me very happy, and I am so glad you came into my life, and I appreciate you very much. I'm sorry you're stuck down in South Florida for life.
I love it. Don't be sorry. It fulfills me.
You have like iguanas and shit down there now. We didn't have the iguanas back then. Like fucking kimono dragons, like walking down the street. I'm like, what is happening to South Florida? What? Anyway, so
They just add more character and entertainment to the state.
So I thank you very, very much. And once again, how do they find you online?
Instagram at Tanya C. Oliver, and my website, www.tanyacoliver.
Well, thank you. And audience, thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.